The Tao of the Day. This is Martin John, and I am here to present the Tao. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it contains 81 short verses that help us live a more reasonable life, is what I like to refer to it as. And what I mean by reasonable is not asking other things to be different, other people to be different, others people's actions to be different, and understanding where we are making the assumptions and where we have desires in our life so that we can drop some of those things. Because when we can drop our desire, we can accept things as they are and really live more in collaboration with everything around us. Then we really kind of live our full potential. When we are living our full potential, we are just here in this moment and collaboratively observing what's going on with us and with the things that are going on around us. It's not about controlling your life. It's about living your life. And so many people today really want to control. They want to have control of what's going on in their life and what they do and what they succeed at and what they accomplish. But really, it is about letting go of those desires to accomplish in any specific way, because you are accomplishing this moment no matter what you're doing. And so, like, we want to be able to let go of the idea that there is some external that we have to achieve. We are perfect as we are in this moment, and although that is going to change and grow, we we are still perfect here right now. Right. So what we're going to do today, and what we do every day on Tao of the Day, is invite you up to pick a number between 1 and 81. And when we read that number, we will just try and figure out where in your life does this is this message really clear for you to move forward through some sort of trouble or some sort of a difficult moment. It's not even doesn't have to even be difficult. Julie's gonna join me and we'll see how this works. Julie, how are you, my love?
I'm all right. I need a number today to help me
Yeah.
fit a piece of lino.
Fit a piece of linoleum.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, I'm replacing a little piece of lino on Claire's floor because it got worn and it was a trip hazard. So we've got another piece of lino of the same stuff, and we're trying to fit it, and it's difficult. Because you want to match the pattern. You want to make sure the edges are nice and close and tight, and yeah. So we're
Yeah.
working with that. So the other reason I want to pick this number is because I answered a question recently, and it said, "What is the meaning of life?"
Hmm.
And as you know from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the biggest computer in the universe answers the number 42. So
Yeah.
that's my number today.
Now I do believe you've picked 42 in the past. So this
I
is
have.
yeah. So
But I
so let's
can't remember it. This is kind of like each time I pick a
yeah.
number with you, there's
It's new.
always something there for me.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one's interesting as you're dealing with the linoleum and all of this. It's like holding both male and female. And this one is about like being able to understand that you are part of it all, and you aren't any one thing. So Tao gives birth to universes. Universes give birth to planets. Planets give birth to beings, and beings give birth to everything else.
Mm.
Tao is the great mother. All else holds both male and female. By all things embracing both, harmony is achieved. To feel alone is avoided by men, yet that is where no identity resides. The master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness, realizing when she is at one with herself, she is at one with all things.
Perfect reminder.
So, yeah, so you know, the beginning of this is interesting as we launch into it. Tao gives birth to universes. Universes give birth to planets. Planets give birth to beings. Beings give birth to everything else. Now, you and the linoleum both have these masculine and feminine qualities. Right? I mean, if
Mm.
we're going to focus on linoleum, like
Let's
what,
do it.
right?
Jeff Cup.
Um, right? And the linoleum, although it is the masculine because it's a thing that
Mm.
we get to see and we get to observe, and it gets to be flashy and all of these sorts of things. It also now, like, you've released the section, and there's a section that it needs to receive,
Yes.
right? And it as a whole is this masculine aspect, and then you remove this piece, and now it has a piece that it needs to receive, and that's not always easy. It's not always easy to play both the masculine and feminine roles, and that's why it's like you're like, okay, I got to make sure it's like this and it's like this, but we also have to ask, like, this piece that's going in is the new sort of masculine part, and the old part is the feminine, and the old part has to become open to receiving. Now the old part was playing a masculine role, but
Yeah.
now it has to play a feminine role of receptivity,
Yeah.
and it might be difficult for it to play that role of receptivity, of having receptivity, because it's like, I am one way, I have a pattern, I have a thing that you have to match.
Yeah.
And it's like, it needs to also be able to release itself from that, to be like, well, maybe I'm going to be something new after receiving this. And we all do that, right? Like, we always do that. Like, there's always, as soon as, like when we cry and when we go through a part and there's a death within us,
Yes.
when we become reborn, we want to be open to what we're becoming reborn into. We
Yeah.
don't want to hold on to what we were and just be reborn into that again.
Or even take it with us. We have to be able to let go of it, because if I, if I, for instance, believe that I'm going to be this beautiful, relaxing, giving hypnotherapist, I have to let go of who I am now
Completely.
to do that. Yeah.
Right. And part of who you are right now is the person who believes you're going to be this
Yeah.
open hypnotherapist. And so that is still coming from this right now.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to, the Tao talks a lot about this idea of, if you want to embrace identity, you can, but you'll have to open up to the fact that if you want to be soft, you have to open up to the fact that you're rigid.
Yes.
And if you don't open up to the fact that you're rigid, you'll never find softness.
Correct. Yeah.
And so,
Realize. Yeah.
right, that is part of your identity. And it is about getting rid of identity and desire, right? That desire to be soft means you have to find out that you're rigid.
Yeah.
And and so getting rid of that altogether, getting rid of the identity altogether, is really so that you have no desire to be soft. And then you just are going to be who you are.
Yes.
Just like this linoleum is now going to be what it is, because it is going to receive what it is about to be. It may not receive what it expects to be.
Yeah. It no longer has trip hazards. It no longer
Right.
has pieces missing. The replacement, the receiving is going to make it part of the whole floor
Yeah.
again.
And it is now going to be like a different floor, right?
Yeah.
It's going right, like my kitchen floor is 70% like removed, and when I rebuild that, it's going to be a different floor, but it's going to be the same floor. It's kind of like the grandfather's axe
Yeah.
conversation. Do you know about that? It's
No.
like, well, if you get your grandfather's axe, but you've replaced the handle and you've replaced the blade, is it your grandfather's axe?
I get it. Yeah. That's very good. Very good. I like that.
you know So then we go into this. Tao is the great mother. And what this section is talking about is that there's only one thing that is only feminine. and that's Tao. And Tao is void. You can't experience Tao because it only has one. You can be Tao, you can use Tao, but you can't experience, you can't see it because it doesn't have structure. It doesn't
Mm.
have the masculine. So Tao is the great mother. It is the only one that is the only thing that you can experience. The only thing that exists that has only one of the male and female aspects, and it is the great mother. All else holds both male and female. By all things embracing both, harmony is achieved.
Yes.
How have you experienced that in your life?
Structure and space. I always like to refer to those.
Mm-hmm.
That's my greatest model of masculine and feminine
Yeah,
is structure and space. So without the structure, you cannot hold the space.
that's right.
Without the space, the structure is.
Has no place to exist.
Yes. No reason. It has no
Yeah,
reason. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. You know, and so like out,
And that comes even to the very atoms inside of ourselves. There is structure and
absolutely.
space within us,
Yeah,
physically. Yeah.
right. So like here's the thing. Tao is the great mother and it has no structure, only
Mm.
space. And because there is nothing in that space, it cannot be experienced. That is the void. That is the void of all things, right? Like it's not until you have something to reference that space can be seen. If
Yeah.
it's just you, like trust me, when I was in the dark retreat, I couldn't see anything. Space was like there was no like I could feel things, but like I couldn't see, and it was just it was vast,
Mm.
you know. All else holds both male and female. By all things embracing both, harmony is achieved, and that's the thing. Like when your floor can embrace the receptivity of its nature and the structure of its nature, then it can be itself completely as it is without
Yeah.
having to have an identity.
Yeah.
Now we get into an interesting section. To feel alone is avoided by men, yet it is where no identity resides. How do you think that relates to what we're talking about?
For me, it means that if you are alone, then you can feel disconnected from everything else.
Yeah.
Yet you are with everything else always.
Yeah. That's beautiful, right? Like to feel alone is avoided by men. So like feeling disconnected is avoided by men.
Yeah.
Yet this is where no identity resides. No identity of masculine and feminine. No identity of being something specific.
Yeah.
And when you are alone, when you're alone in your house and you're not, that moment where you're not doing anything, you're in between. That's when you don't have an identity. That's when you're no longer Julie. You're just in this space.
I'm an entity.
Yeah. And and you don't have to uphold any sort of identity. You don't have to
Or
uphold
role.
any sort of masculine structure. You can just be you
Yeah.
completely,
Yeah.
embracing both the masculine of, the identity and the feminine, the receptivity of what this moment is bringing.
Yeah. I love moments of be, is what I call
Yeah.
it. Moments of be.
Yeah.
That's all. The function is be.
Those are those are those are moments that are fleeting
Yeah.
because we are in such a structured time right now.
Yeah.
But they're moments that give us so much clarity, and they're also
Yeah.
moments of fear, like, well, who am I if I don't do? Who am I if I don't have all of this stuff that I surround myself with?
Yeah. But it's kind of nice when you sit with that. For
Yeah.
me, that is no longer a fear at all.
Yeah. And
Which
that's where,
a
Well,
lovely place to be.
and
Be.
that's where this is where this kind of wraps up. The master holds no identity. She embraces her aloneness, realizing when she is at one with herself, she is at one with all things.
Yes. Yeah. For me particularly, when I'm in a moment of just my essence, which is how I describe be,
Hmm.
when I'm in a moment of just my essence, I have peace, but I also have bliss.
Yeah.
Bliss is a beautiful word. Bliss is satisfaction from nothing.
Mm.
And that is great. I
It's a
love it.
beautiful way of describing it. Yeah, like just to be here and is so much more than content,
Yeah, it's
you
bliss.
know? And
Yeah,
and maybe that's because of how we have decided to understand the word content. But as the Tao says, words can't describe all of this.
yeah.
But
I often have problems with that. I have
and
problems
that's good. It's good for us to have problems trying to
express
describe
it.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then we remember that, well, it can't be done. And if we can remember it can't be done, like I get frustrated sometimes when people in my orbit just
Good word.
constantly try to define and pin down and say everything, and I'm always like, let it go.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. That almost the fact that you can't find the words is also a blissful moment because
yeah.
then you realize it's beyond your capability. It's beyond. It's
Hmm.
something else, and
Yeah.
yet it's new, and that's just it is what it is.
It is so beautiful. If you wanted to come back up, of course you can. We did finish reading that up, but yeah, this idea that we have to be able to express it in order for and I always find when people are trying to express those things, they keep searching for the right words and they repeat themselves, and I'm like, you can't do it.
Mm,
Stop trying.
yeah,
Stop trying. Like I tell people often, uh, don't don't come up with your why. And then the world today is like, you have to have a big why. You have to have a big why. You have to. I'm just like,
yeah,
oh, for fuck's sake. Like your why is made up. And so
yes,
you can fool yourself into believing your why, or you can live this moment as it is. You can
yeah,
fool yourself into believing you have a why that's important and you're doing important work and all of this
yeah,
fucking bullshit about like your ego.
yeah.
Or you can just let go and say, hey, this moment, this is what's happening.
It's something that I struggle with.
Oop, I think you're getting a call. It is. It's so
Why?
hard
I
when go on.
don't know
Go on.
why. That's the thing. When someone asks me, why are you doing this? What is it doing for you? I just don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that I'm enjoying the experience of it, but not the why. There's not a reason.
Right.
There just is and is. It's just an experience.
Yeah, this is just what's happening. It's like, I have people around me that are always talking about like why. Like, why this is I do this and people do this and this and this and this. And I'm always like, and while they're yapping on about like all of their fucking like made up things, I'm always kind of sort of like just sitting there in the background going, okay.
Observing. Yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah.
like one day you're gonna realize that all of this shit is just stuff you're making up so you can feel good about yourself. And it's like the
You
fact that you
said you
need to
need a purpose. Well, I don't believe that people need a purpose. I just don't.
well, life is the purpose.
Exactly.
and that's the thing. Like everyone wants to identify some purpose, but this is it.
I know.
This is
That's the
it, and
joy of
all that
it.
it is. It's not going to be more. And it doesn't have to be more than this, whatever this happens to be.
Yeah.
But we all want to say, "Oh, I'm hardworking, and I'm achieving things, and that's all like, oh God, you are so boring."
Oh, I love it. I love
And
talking
you're
to
so
you
and you're
so
so
much.
like you're so predictable, right? Like, oh, you want to achieve something. Let me guess, you work hard. Let me guess, you go out and you exercise and you achieve some bullshit. And like you're going to go and do all of these things, and it's like good for you. Like
Uh,
I'm glad you're out there doing it. But in order for that to be valuable in the world as you describe it, other people have to think it's important too.
yeah.
And the
And I
moment
have,
everyone calls you a go on.
I've said before that the only person that is important to you, for you, is you.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake of thinking that other people value you more than you value your own life essence, your own being, because
Yeah.
that's not the case and it never will be. So good luck searching for that because
Right.
that's not the reality.
If people are running around trying to prove that they're something,
Yeah.
I told someone the other day that I was just kind of like, they were like, "I'm a badass," and I just looked at them, unmoved, because I'm sick of the word. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
I'm sick of people calling themselves badasses because what that means is, in comparison to others, I am better in some way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, what a bullshit
Yeah.
way of looking at the world. Like, one, you have judged everybody and somehow came up with the idea that you're better.
And the need is there for you to see.
Yeah,
When someone says to you, I'm badass, there's a need in them to
right.
believe that.
And when I didn't respond, they were like, "You don't think so?" And I was like, "No, I'm just I told them, "No, I'm just sick of the word, and I don't know that I don't need to respond to it. Like, you're a badass. That's you believe that. Go ahead. Like
Yeah,
that's all."
I'm
And
not
that's the thing.
invested.
And as soon as like there's no response, then there's a need to like double down and be like, "No, no, I'm a badass. And I believe I'm a badass. It doesn't matter what you believe." And it's just like, well, is that true? Because you just double downed
Yeah,
on your thing. I mean, it's fine. Like I don't care if you're a badass. Like you're someone in my orbit, and so I love you and all of these
yeah,
things. But like if you're if you think that your being a badass is something like I don't think I'm a badass, but you know like
yeah.
most motherfuckers can't hold a candle to me, like in terms of like what
Yeah,
I do.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. There is only one Martin John.
right, and there's absolutely no there's no
That's brilliant.
there is no level of like I'm a badass first puts like creates a standard,
Yeah.
and that standard comes from other people. So if you're a badass, like you started from a space of like, well, let me see where everybody else is.
Let's
And
measure.
then put myself on that and then put
Yeah.
myself on that spectrum. Well, let me burst your little bubble and say, well, that's not badass. Like that's
Yeah, that's unnecessary. That's
right.
what
Like
that is.
you're wasting some energy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like it's really important to be in a space of receptivity, and that's
Yeah.
where the masculine and feminine, me being a badass, is masculine, but there's no receptivity to that, right? It's just looking outward and then responding, and then being that structure, saying, I hold this structure. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you hold that structure. Now do you? Because I mean, I responded in a way that you didn't expect, and it did affect you in some way,
Mm.
even slightly. So are you really, And I can like again, I need to and have looked at, well, what does that mean for me when I hear badass, when I, because I mean
Yes.
that, like, and
That's what I do. That's what I do. When I hear something or I experience something that kind of I do receive it and it gives me this feeling, reaction within me, then I question about that.
yeah,
Why am I feeling this about this particular thing? And then if I do that little bit of exploring inside myself, I might find the answer to that. And then when I find the answer, I can let it go. Sometimes I don't even do the finding the answer. Sometimes I just let that go.
right, because once again we can't express it anyway, so maybe
Yeah,
it's something beyond us,
yeah,
having to prove and having to do all that, right? Well, once again, both male and female,
yeah,
structure and substance,
yeah,
right? The substance, the space, right? The
yeah.
depth of something, like that's the female. And when I can let go of that, when I can let go of the structure of it, when I can let go and just be left with the substance, the void, the space,
Mm,
I can just breathe into that, and I can just be like,
yeah.
oh, okay, well, there's that, you know.
That's it. There's that.
And
I saw
we
that.
are constantly being asked to live in the world of others, right? Like other people are constantly asking us, well, no, you have to, and I want to point out, like, and I don't know if this is true, is your relationship with your daughter better than it was last year?
Massively.
And that's an interesting thing, because I remember, like, your daughter was constantly asking you to live in her experience,
Yes.
and every time you capitulated to that in some way, you know, she won, and she was like, well, then you have to live in my experience. But
Yeah.
then when you stood up and said, okay, no more of this, you changed the timeline, you changed the experience, and your daughter ultimately accepted that. And whether or not, and that's because you changed. Like, she
Yes.
may not have changed at all.
Yeah, but my perception of her
Your
might have.
perception.
Yes.
Right.
And a massive learning there. That's
Right.
something very recent
Yeah.
that I'd noticed.
And that's the
Which,
thing. Like, so many of us want to think other people need to change.
yeah.
But it's like, maybe they don't. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only
Absolutely.
thing
Yeah.
that needs to change.
If I'm finding it difficult to live under the influence of others,
Mhm.
then why would others be living under the influence of me?
Right. If I want freedom, doesn't everybody else?
Yes.
If I
And
want
shouldn't
freedom to be
I?
myself, doesn't everybody else?
Yeah. So why should I then project how I see the image of them and their behavior as them when it's
Right.
just blatantly just a perception that I had?
Yeah. And it's simply you.
Yeah.
And there's that quote, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And that's really at the core of all of this. And
Mm,
when you can recognize that everything you see in the world is the way you are, and I have to be able to look at, well, why am I experiencing other people calling themselves badass? What is that telling me about me? How am I feeling about that? What is that, like, and then I get to look back and see what this says about me. And I do that work. And
yeah.
and if other people want to do that work as well, then we all move, in a direction of harmony.
Yes.
Like, I could sit here and I could bitch and moan and stuff about, like, oh, people want this from me, or I can say, well, whoa, 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 what am I doing, right? Both the male and female. One, the male, I can get triggered, and the female, I can be receptive to that trigger. I can
Mm,
receive that trigger, and then I can look at it.
yeah.
You know, Tao is the great mother. Tao is the only one that has one mode. So none of us are only one. None of us are just male, and so just react to everything. We
Mm,
have reaction, we have action and reaction and all of those sorts of things, and then we have reflection and integration.
mm. Yeah. Good stuff, isn't it? It's just, I am just so in awe of how I see things now, how I perceive things now, and how I drop that perception and look again.
Yeah.
That is just blown my mind.
And like I like to think it's easy. It's not pleasant to step into, but
No.
it's easy to do, and it's stupid easy to do.
Mm. I remember when I was talking to you and we had a recover myself session, and
Yeah.
I remember how I felt after we'd had the conversation. And there was this space that I went to that was very uncomfortable. It was a realization that all that I had experienced was in the way that I decided almost to experience it.
Yeah.
And then there was this shedding of this whole perception, and underneath was tiny me, and it
Mhm.
was a very deep experience. And I think that's the first time that in my life, and I've been through some experiences where I
Mhm.
should really feel alone, but that was the first time in my life that I felt completely alone, to sit and just be. That was just mind blowing.
You know, and this verse, to feel alone is avoided by men.
Mm.
Yet
Yes, it is.
that is where no identity resides, and that's who you are. You
Yes.
don't have an identity. You
No.
are whole.
Yeah.
And when you felt alone, that was when you finally started feeling like yourself.
Yes.
Mm, I love you, Julie.
I love you. You're amazing.
No. No.
But, I'm not going to say that you're badass, but you are amazing. Lovely talk.
It's such a it's beautiful to receive that, and like, and I always look at the work that I do as just being like, look, you were gonna find this at this moment one way or another,
Mm.
and I just happened to be the vessel that you found it through, and I'm grateful for that. And I look at it as not being me as my ego, but me as just a vehicle to uh, to assist this grand this grand illusion of life or whatever. Like it's such a beautiful experience to be able to just be in the flow of Tao, and to interact with other people that are moving in that direction as well.
The best way I can describe what I've on our meeting initially is that we flowed together for a while,
Hmm.
and you kind of showed me in my, as I kind of visualize things for people. If I said that you were in the flow, and I'd for the first time got on the river, and what you did for me, Martin, is you just showed me the direction the flow was,
Hmm.
and that's it.
That's
And
it.
then gently wished me away, and off I went.
And and I think that our world today, because everything has to be so many things have to be a marketing strategy and all of
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Like a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to give you some, and but I'm not going to give you it all. And the thing is they complicate it because they want to compartmentalize it.
Mm.
And I think that like there's really only one truth, and it's right in front of us. And I think a lot of the world wants to hide some of that truth so that they can benefit from it in some way, benefit from their knowing it.
Mm.
And it's like, really, it's like everybody knows the truth. I posted something the other day, or I sent out an email the other day that was like, experts don't have truth. Truth is the expert. That's
Yeah,
it. Truth is the expert. And if you just look to truth, you will always have expert advice in your periphery. It'll be right there. It's always right there. Like there is nothing is being kept from us.
that's right. Yeah.
And I think because this is a world of fear and weaponizing and all of this stuff, like, you know, I'm gonna let me feeling. Um, there's the what number is it? Number 69. In conflict, the master will never host aggression.
Mm,
Wait, is this the one? Let me see. I'm trying to find one. Maybe it's of weapons and mourning. Yeah, no, it's 31.
mm.
Weapons are horrible tools. The master avoids weaponizing anything. And I think the thing is our world has weaponized almost everything. We've
Yes.
weaponized our feelings. We've weaponized words. We've weaponized our politics.
And to a good degree, we've recently, what I've noticed is we've weaponized spirituality.
Yes,
We've given
absolutely.
it a grading. We've decided to stick the measuring stick on
Hmm.
spirituality
That's right.
and decide who fits it and who doesn't, and what work they will have to do to acquire this
Hmm.
or that. And yet, as you said, it is already there within you,
That's right.
within me. That is it. That feeling of being is that spirituality. There's no one
Yeah.
needs to point that out to you. They don't have to sell you a whole book on spirituality to get
Oh,
you to
yes,
a
they do.
higher level. Do you know? Oh yes, I
You
do.
better buy that book, right? Because if you don't buy that book, you're going to be lost.
Yeah,
This
you're
is
not
like
going to make it.
this number 31 continues to say weapons promote fear and separation. And
Yeah.
when you write a book and say this is going to give you that thing, how do you make your life better in 2023? Wait, that is promoting fear and separation.
Mm,
You know, uh, weapons, especially ones that do that, like all weapons, are avoided by those who walk in blessing, but are embraced by those who walk in delusion. Anybody that wants to weaponize and create fear and separation are delusional because they are trying to. They first have fear, which is why they want to promote it. They
mm,
have separation, which is why they believe in separating. So they're
mm.
delusional. They're delusional in their idea that like the world works this way. And and spirituality is now just a market.
Yeah.
It's just a market. And maybe it has been a market, since, I mean, who knows, since the 40s and the 50s or whatever, when
Woodstock.
yeah, it does, like, and as the world kind of, like, and they utilize this term awakens, and as the
Yeah.
world becomes increasingly spiritual. Why is that? I've talked about this before. The idea of the awakening of the spirit brain. It's our first non-physical brain. We're walking into a new feminine model, a
Mm,
new feminine brain, right? We have our gut brain, which is masculine. That's the first brain that we develop because we were birthed from the mother.
mm,
And then so we take on the masculine, and then we take on the feminine heart brain, which was relationship. And
mm,
then we took on the head logic brain, which was masculine again. Now we're moving into the spirit brain once again, the only non-physical brain that we have access to.
mm,
And this is a brain that and as that brain continues to awaken, more and more people are touching this spirituality in a new way. And
mm,
it is spirituality not as relationship was our other feminine brain. A relationship was about receiving relations with the land, with people, with animals. And it wasn't about farming. Farming and writing came with the head brain, with the logic brain.
mm,
Now that we have these things, now that we have language, let's write it down. Now that we have farming, let's organize it. Now that we have um, now that we have relationships and family, let's formalize it.
yeah.
And that's what happened when we got the frontal lobe. That's when the frontal lobe came online. That's what we did.
Yeah.
and now we're moving into, and there's no stopping it. It's part of consciousness. Consciousness is opening up a new brain, and that brain is more feminine, and that's why the Tao is so important now, because the Tao was a book that was written at the beginning of the age of the frontal lobe, relatively at the beginning,
Mm,
and was lamenting, or was reminding us that the relationship was the important aspect of living, and it was the feminine. And as we moved into the masculine, the Tao references and refers to the feminine as being equally important, and we shouldn't forget that.
mm. Yeah, from my experience these days, I believe that I have been living in a masculine dominated world, which
Hmm.
is all about material, like you said, all about organization, all about acquiring
Right, and making it
stuff.
easier to acquire.
Yes, yes. And I can definitely feel within me a change, a
Hmm.
change where people are realizing you can have all the stuff there is.
Hmm.
You can organize all you like. But when you depart from this experience, you leave all of that behind and you
Right,
go back again into the feminine.
right,
Yeah. So that's a great learning curve for me. I'm enjoying that experience at the
yeah.
moment.
And that's it's such an important lesson in our life, that like this, and what other people have deemed, and we organize things so in such a masculine way. We've organized things in such a structural way, right? Like when you're born, now you have to go to school so you can get a job, so that you can pay taxes and you can buy your things, and you can, it's like it's all spelled out for us in
Mm,
structure. You want to buy a house by the time you're this age. You want to have a job, and you want it to pay this much, and it's all just facts and figures. It's all just numbers.
mm,
And now we have done it to such a degree that it's like, well, you're going to want to get all of these subscriptions every month, so you can watch your shows, and you can play your games, and you can do your things, and you can have all of this stuff. And then we make programs that you can pay monthly for, so they can keep those at a minimum. It's like, oh, you got too many subscriptions? How about you buy my program, and we'll get rid of some of those subscriptions and save you some money, so that you can buy other things, so that you can continue paying your taxes and doing all of the things in the structure that we built. It's like, wait a minute.
hang
Why
on
don't I
a
just get
minute.
rid of all of it?
Yeah, hang on a minute. What's
That's
going
right.
on here? That
Absolutely.
moment is what we're looking for. That moment is a great moment.
you know,
Hang
you,
on a minute.
yeah,
What's going on?
like I've been, as I've been in my house, and as I've gone through the holidays and stuff, and I've recognized that like all of the pacifiers that I turn to are just pissing me off now. It's like when I want a pacifier, I look at them all and I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't I
yeah.
don't I don't want to eat another thing. I don't want to watch another thing. I don't want to post another thing. I don't want to, I don't want to do any of that anymore. I'm just like, okay. I just gonna sit here in the dark.
Yeah, I just want to be.
Yeah,
I
just
just
like,
want to
even if
be.
I'm like, my pacifying now is just like, just sit with it and shut the fuck up. Like there is nothing in it for me to like avoid it. There's nothing I'm even avoiding anymore. It's just like, just be quiet.
Yeah. Well, that's even better when you don't avoid. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Because a
Yeah.
lot of us spend a lot of time doing the avoiding action,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
then just makes the thing that we're avoiding bigger
Right.
and
It
more
just gives it
important.
more power. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then it puts it off, and then it's sitting in your subconscious gaining strength, and it's like,
Yes.
oh man, and in recovery we say, like, if you're not working on your addiction's working on you. Or while you're avoiding this, like, your addiction's out in the parking lot doing push-ups, like getting stronger. And it's like, there is truth to that. There is
Mm.
truth to that. Like, you can't just avoid your shit, you got to deal with it. But
Yeah, you've got to, yeah, accountability for everything in your world.
that's right.
Accountability for every feeling that you have.
And a lot of people want to avoid that because there's fear in that. There's fear in that idea that, like, oh, I'm going to be responsible for everything. Like, well,
Yeah,
you've always been.
yeah, exactly. That
And
is the eye opener. Oh,
right.
God,
And the
this is down
sooner,
to me.
yeah, the sooner you get to understand that, the sooner you get to the place where you know that that's the case, the sooner you get to, like, live your life.
Mm,
Because otherwise, you're just avoiding.
yeah. Martin, John, thank you so much for having
Absolutely.
me for so long. I've really had a good old
A
conversation, a
little
good old
tongue wag.
thought provoker. Oh, yes, I have. I've thoroughly enjoyed it too.
Oh,
I'm
amazing.
just going to chip off and
Yep.
hopefully someone will pop in and I can listen to someone else's perspective because that's
Well,
what.
yeah, no one's in there now, but we'll see if I can. I think I'll go over 31 since we talked about that. But we'll chat with you again soon. Send my
Yeah.
best to Brad and the fam.
He's listening to you. Brad is sat on the sofa enjoying our conversation.
Well, I'm glad. I'm so glad.
We
Hey,
love you.
love you. Have a good
We'll
one.
speak soon. Take care, love. Speak soon.
Yep. So as I said, I was gonna go over 31 because we were talking about this idea of weaponizing stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and read 31, and we'll go over it briefly, and then I'll wrap up. Weapons are horrible tools. The master avoids weaponizing anything. Weapons promote fear and separation, avoided by those who walk in blessing, but embraced by those who walk in delusion. If compelled to use them, she uses restraint. There is no glory in victory if weapons are used. Her enemy is not evil, but human like herself. How can she see glory in their slaughter? When the master is compelled to engage a weapon, she does so gravely and filled with compassion, knowing that this is the first state of her mourning. You know, when I read that end, like filled with compassion, it's kind of like, when you put an animal out of its misery, you do not waste time. You do it quick because it's compassionate. And it's the same thing that we want to do when we are compelled to engage a weapon with someone else. We do it quick, we do it compassionately. And whether or not that weapon is something physical, and we want to, like literally are protecting our like defending ourselves, and we are in a position where it's just like, okay, I have to do this. You do it quick, and you do it very deliberately. Or if it's in an argument or something, you do not like sometimes I can find myself in an argument, and when I've been shown that I've been wrong, there's no need to continue showing me over and over and reminding me that I was wrong. That's not compassionate. What's compassionate is to prove that someone's wrong, if that's your goal, and then let it go. Be like, okay, that's behind us. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take that from you, but it was important in this situation. And when when we're proving someone's wrong, quote unquote, or doing something like that, like, what is the reason for it? Do we have a reason to prove someone wrong? Sometimes it's just fine to let people think what they think. you know I know people have said to me, it's just like, oh, I feel this when you say that. It's like, oh, okay. There's no reason for me to, like, you feel that I'm saying something that I'm not saying, but okay, well, you feel that. That has nothing to do with me, and I don't have to like agree with you or disagree with you or prove you wrong or anything. Like, if you think I'm talking down to you, well, okay. You think I'm talking down to you. Are you going to play a victim to me talking down to you? Are you going to try and ask yourself, why do I believe he's talking down to me? Are you going to take this as your experience, or are you going to be the victim of this experience that you should be owning, and then put it on me and say, now it's my job to change. This is what I talk about when I talk about living a reasonable life. If you live a reasonable life, well, then you're not going to ask the world around you to change. You are going to take on the responsibility of changing how you view the world. So such an important message to, in weaponizing. We want to not weaponize things, and we were talking earlier about someone calling themselves a badass. Is that weaponizing something? Is that saying like you're better than I am, I'm better than you, or there's a structure and I fit that structure better than you do? There's no reason to be a badass. There's no reason to be anything. Just be you now. And if you happen to do things like they can say I'm a badass, and they can list all the ways that they're a badass, but there's a million other ways that they might not be. A million other ways that they can fall into the categories that everybody else does. It's like, okay, you're a badass, but only under this framework. You're not a badass over here. And so does that mean you're weak? Does that mean you're not? No, it doesn't. It means you're you. I told someone the other day this idea of like, we don't ask a wrench to pull a screw out of, we don't judge a wrench and its ability to pull screws out of a wall. Right? We don't do that. We don't do that because a wrench isn't built to pull screws out of the wall. And if we judged a wrench versus a screwdriver on its ability to pull screws out of a wall, well, the wrench is going to lose every time. And does that mean it's not a badass? Does that mean it can't do anything? Does that mean its work isn't good? No. It just means you have created a preconceived idea of what good is or what success is. And that has nothing to do with the the tools that you have. So if you look to somebody else and say, "Oh, I'm not doing what they do," well, that's because they're living a different life. They picked up different things on the pre-karmic buffet. They're dealing with other things than you are. You're able to deal with some, they're able to deal with others, and that's just how it goes. Pretty simple, actually. So that's 31. We read 31 and 42 today. You'll be able to see this on the martinjohn.com site, as well as the Tao of the Day podcast on Anchor and Spotify. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Martin John. If you benefit from the work that I present here, please consider giving a tip through Venmo or through my through my link tree, which you can find on my wisdom profile. Thank you so much once again. I am Martin John, the Recovery Mentor, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.